Sherry. I'm gonna light the candle. Or do you want to sing and then I'll light it and I'll? Sure. Or do you want to? You sing. Are you okay just being here yourself? Okay. You start.
Hi, I'm Sheila.
Hi.
Good to meet you. Yeah, what you okay. I had high, I had high, I had high, I had high,
Bruchim habayim, blessed is your being here this morning. We meet to celebrate the life of Stu Dolnick, Zichron Livracha, to express how much he meant to us. We meet to hug each other, to affirm life, to affirm that which is important to us. And we join together to express our love, to share our loss, to celebrate his life. I have to share, those are actually the words that Stu wrote. He was taking care of us because part of death and gathering is coming together in remembrance of our loved one. But equally important is coming together to provide comfort to those who mourn the loss. All of us here today, but dare I say in particular, our beloved friend, Norma, and her children, Scott, who is afar, and Rob, who is joining us this morning. Norma, can I ask you just to take a look to see all who are here to provide loving support to you? The readings that we're doing today are ones that Stu had compiled over the years. Stu, as you know, was a secular humanist, and we are honoring that tradition and perspective within our Jewish world and community. So first I read, we're here to help each other. Death is never easy or welcome. It always gives rise to a myriad of emotions. We are here this morning to recognize our loss and to provide one another with comfort and support, to love and care and be embraced by that, the love and care of family and friends, which provide what we need as we face loss and grief that accompanies it. While grieving, we can open ourselves up and experience the true value of friendship, love, and community. In this way, we begin the healing process. There are no timely deaths, though some are more accepted than others. There are no blessed deaths, though some are more peace-giving than others. There are only unwanted deaths, uncontrolled, unreasonable deaths. For death tears at the marrow of the living, shattering our facade of wisdom, evoking the horror and the agony of our transience. Yet even as we peer into the heart of death and behold no answers, courage arises within to face the truth of our ignorance with the light of our love. Though we cannot know the reason for death, we can face the reality of it with the best of human dignity, refusing to despair of life, even as life seems to have despaired us. I'd like to invite Cantor Avery up now to share a reading with us. There Are Stars.
There are stars up above, so far away, we only see their light long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we love. Their memory keeps shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember.
So it's my role to introduce speakers to talk about Stu and their relationship with him. I first wanted just to share a little bit of my relationship with Stu, if I may, Norma. I met Stu at a place where many Jews gather. Not the synagogue, Costco. I was on the checkout line, and I saw Norma standing behind me. I must say I was always looking at her cart. I look at everybody's cart. And I looked up, and there was Norma. And there was this very handsome man who I had never seen before. I introduced myself. He introduced himself. And that's when I learned that Norma had a loving companion, someone who I immediately sensed his warmth, his positivity, and his funny. He was funny, just funny. I thought, she's a lucky lady. And then we went through the lines. Sometime later, we held here a cancer support group, and Stu was a part of that group. Some folks here were a part of that group. And what I was most taken with by Stu was we are called upon to offer divrei chizuk, words that encourage, words that strengthen, words that enlighten, words that are truthful. And in each week that he was there, I think it's more than fair to say that's who he was, and that's who he showed up for others. Those divrei chizuk were often wrapped in positivity, warmth, a funny line, but they were not naive. They were deeply honest based on his lived experience, which had not always been easy. And I wanted to invite up probably the person in the room who knows him best. She was 14. He was 16 when they first met. According to Norma, he was quiet but handsome. They had the miraculous opportunity to spend 7 years together, not at age 16 and 14, but in their later years. Norma, I invite you up to share.
Hello, I'm so overwhelmed by how many of you are here, and I'm so overwhelmed by all the different walks of life you all come from. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. And I knew I was inviting people from our different communities, but I just didn't envision you all in one room, and it's so overwhelming. And you know who you are, so I don't have to go through all the different communities we belong to. So first of all, I want to thank the clergy for preparing this service and for supporting me for the last 20 months. And I want to thank all my wonderful family and all my wonderful friends. You've been so helpful to me since August of 23, when Stu was diagnosed with brain cancer. I've got the best family and I've got the best set of friends. So let me tell you what my goals are for today. Don't worry, we're not at work. This is personal, I get it, but I do have goals. My first goal is so that we can all enjoy what we remember about Stu. I hope they bring some measure of comfort to you. I want to honor Stu, of course, and then I want to bring out some life lessons at the end that we could all learn from Stu's life. So I'm only speaking to the last 7 years. He and I both had 40 years without each other, our own spouses and 2 children each, and different parts of the country. So I can't talk to those times. I can only talk to the last 7 years. But I promise that you're going to see and hear things that you've never seen or heard before and will not see or hear again. I promise you. I also want to say that Stu would want to be bringing a smile to your faces, a groan when we talk about puns, a smile, a laugh. So please don't hold back. Please. He would be so pleased. Okay. So he did everything with determination and a sense of humor. He cracked up people all the time. And he didn't do it because he was a narcissist. He didn't do it to gain attention to himself. He did it because it was going to make you happy and make you smile. That's why he did it. Okay, so let me tell you about one of the last times I talked with him. Excuse me. So he was in skilled nursing, which meant just comfort care at the end. He was in major, major decline. And he couldn't even pick up the phone if I called. Either his hands wouldn't function, or his brain wasn't functioning, but his daughter Mindy was in the room with him. And she and I said hello, and she put him on speakerphone, and she says to him, "Say hello, Dad." And he says to me, "Hello, Dad." So we did he was funny till the end. We did our little, "How are you feeling?" "Fine." "Did you have breakfast?" "Fine." "Are you in pain?" "No." And then there was really not much more to talk about. So it was time to say goodbye. So Mindy and I decided we would end the call, and she says, "Say goodbye, Dad." And he says, "Goodbye, Dad." So he literally cracked me up to the end. Okay, so I have to start with three puns. Have to. What did the cannibal get when he showed up to the party late? A cold shoulder. Coffee has really bad luck. It gets mugged every morning. And the last one is, I fired my masseuse today. He just rubbed me the wrong way. So I had to do those. Okay, so now I'm going to show you this slide, and you're going to say, what the heck is that slide? Okay, so everybody always asked me, how was our community in Boulder County lucky enough to get Stu? And that led to, Norma, how did you know Stu, and how did he end up coming here? Okay, well, this slide tells it all. For those of you who are around my age, you'll remember these things called tankettes. The toilet tanks would drip. You're great, you're just a little further away. Yeah, the toilet tanks would drip, drops of water. So Stu's father invented the tankette. It was the fuzzy thing that went around the tank with the matching toilet seat cover, the matching Kleenex cover, the matchy everything. That was what his father invented. His father ran the factory in Milwaukee, and my father was the manufacturer's rep in the state of Ohio, sold these items to bath shops and department stores. So the two men were very close business associates. His parents came to my wedding. The two sets of parents were really good friends. So that's how we got to know each other. At 14, I was 14, he was 16. His family went from Milwaukee through Cleveland for a weekend to DC to visit family. And he tells everybody that's when he had his first crush on me. I'm just quoting him. Okay. I saw him another weekend when I was 24 and he was 26. I visited with his family, stayed with his family in Milwaukee for a really fun weekend called Summerfest. You know Summerfest? Music, boating, food, really fun festival. Anyways, so my husband died in 2014 and his wife died in 2017. And he called to tell me that his father had died because he wanted my mother to know. His father's in Milwaukee, my mom's in Florida. So we talked 4 hours that night, 4 hours the next night, 4 hours the next night. We never later could figure out what the hell did we talk about for 4 hours. And on a Saturday, we talked for 6 hours. Anyways, one night I came home from work and I knew I was going to be thirsty during our call because they lasted so long. And I grabbed a bottle of champagne, and I'm not a drinker. I grabbed a bottle of champagne and a glass. And for 4 hours, every time I was thirsty, I was pouring champagne. And I was like, ooh, this tastes really good. I don't think I was acting drunk. And my other son, Scott, happened to call just to check in. And he said, you did what? You just finished off an entire bottle of champagne? I went, yeah. He said, go downstairs to the kitchen right now and get something to eat. And so I never got sick. Don't ask me why. But anyways, everyone here liked him so much. It was easy to build on my own community, and it was easy to build new communities because he was so likable. He was an extrovert who thrived on good conversation, and he was truly interested in other people. So I'm going to ask my son, let me see, hold on a second. Okay, I'll go back to that in a second. I'm going to ask my son Rob to come up and hold something for me. So in December of 23, he had his 76th birthday. He had just finished his first time going through radiation. And I made this poster for him, which they hung onto ever since, and we hung it up in his apartment. So I decided the S stood for sweet, smart, sincere, sociable. The T stood for thoughtful, tenderhearted, trustworthy. U, understanding, unselfish, upbeat. A was for agreeable, adaptable, amicable, amusing. R was for real, resilient, respectful, reliable, resourceful. T was tidy. I was not organized. He's very organized, was. Tidy, teachable, terrific. So, and then those other expressions of support were things I wrote when he was sick. Yeah, just to kind of keep him going. Thank you, Rob. So, okay, so let me tell you some of the things that other people said about Stu. Thank you. Stu was a cherished member of our volunteer program, and I will miss his infectious smile. I was privileged to know and love Stu. He was that fun guy at every event. I loved his humor and tenderness that he shared while getting tasks accomplished on behalf of our Afghan family. Just hearing his name brings up the vision of his smiling face and heartfelt attitude. We remember Stu for his kindness and his willingness to give up his time and energy to others. He was a remarkable guy who will be missed. He truly has been an inspiration to many. And then I heard witty, handsome, very bright, charming, humble, kind, remarkable guy. Oh, that smile. So, a main trait of Stu was how compassionate and empathetic he was. He was so passionate about helping other individuals and helping groups. Now, this is in Wisconsin. He was a big brother. He was a friendly visitor to many people, including a blind gentleman. He took him shopping, fixed his computer, did things in his apartment. He was a hospital chaplain. I know he got a volunteer award when he was in Wisconsin. So here in Colorado, he and I shared a number of volunteer experiences, and we each had our own, which was really healthy. So one thing that we did was drive for Circle of Care, where we drive elders with limited incomes to cultural events throughout Boulder County, like to Mackey and Chautauqua and the Dairy and such. So he and I would go in our two different cars, and we'd each drive a few people and enjoy whatever we were watching. So we did Circle of Care. This happened to be a pop-up event from my Rotary Club. He's back here in the back row on the right. It was a spelling bee, and we sponsored it, so we were volunteering. He was actively a member of the ACE committee at the JCC, Arts, Cultural, and Education Committee, that helped advise the staff, some of who are here today, in terms of doing cultural events at the JCC. He was treasurer and other things for Beth Ami, which is the Colorado Congregation for Humanistic Judaism. You'll hear more about that in a minute. He was a friendly visitor for Jewish Family Service, and there were people in Boulder that he visited, and there were also people in Longmont. And when he could no longer drive because he was having seizures every couple of weeks, I would drive him, drop him off. He would do his visiting with this woman, and then we'd go home again. So we didn't let his illness stop that. He was a documentary film discussion leader for the Boulder Newcomers Club. He was an organizer for our Havra. He taught English on Zoom for 2 years to a woman in Peru who wanted to be able to get a job that she needed English for. And then he taught, that was 2 years. And then he spent another year teaching English to a Houston-based teacher who was a Spanish speaker. She could totally talk with her children, but her students, she couldn't talk with the parents. So she needed to be able to speak English. So he tutored her for a year, and then he got too tired. He was also, at the time, volunteering for the Madison Blues Society, which was in Wisconsin. So he was doing that remotely. He was managing their website. He had never done that before, but he learned how. It's like, okay, I'll figure it out. So he was really busy. So Kathleen is a person he met through the Boulder Newcomers Club, and unfortunately her husband recently passed from Alzheimer's. But she wrote, Stu very kindly offered to visit my husband who was suffering from Alzheimer's. He brought pastries to the house for my husband, played pool with us, and gently teased Steve when Steve couldn't remember if he was stripes or solids. All in all, Stu was a generous friend to us. Stu was the kindest, most passionate fellow we met through the Boulder Newcomers Club. Stu was an absolute role model of how to live humanly. He was a true gentleman, unquote. So if he saw somebody in need, he would try to figure out how to help them. If he saw an organization that needed a certain function fulfilled, he would volunteer for that organization. He was also involved with the Men of the J. So, all seriousness aside, he was a really fun-loving guy. He got me into e-biking. That was up at, I took that picture at NCAR. We used the e-bikes to get up. Yeah, went go-karting. He loved trains and buses and planes. Go-karting in Westminster. We did ATVs in the mountains. This was in Fort Lauderdale on, what are they called, segways? Segways? That was fun. What's his name? Buffy? Chip. And yeah, always fun. And I can't even tell you what this was. I don't know. It must have been during COVID because we were online. I don't know. I can't remember. If any of you remember later, please tell me. Okay, so wait, I skipped one. So this is his great niece. Can you imagine having a great uncle that squirts whipped cream into your mouth? I mean, how could they all not love him? That is just, I love that picture. This was Halloween one year. My son, and the only reason I want to show it to you is my son who lives in Australia works in the fertility world. And so we decided we were fertility doctors. And do you see the turkey baster? Yeah. We had a turkey baster. It was fun. This was at my son's wedding. And fun. And I was really lucky. He loved to dance. So this was for Purim in Milwaukee in the skilled nursing facility. And he was in a wheelchair, he couldn't walk, and he was willing to put these things on because he was fun. Totally fun. Okay, so I was very proud of the fact that I got him to do some things he had never done, including snowmobiling. He never done it, and you can't see it, but the post at the bottom on the Facebook post, he wrote, "My first time. It's funny I never did this or even thought about doing it during a lifetime in Wisconsin." So I decided that this could be the front cover of a Gentleman's Quarterly, like senior version. I mean, look at that. I love that picture. I got him into a kayak once, but I got him into a kayak across the street from my house, and he liked it. And he did lots of arts and crafts, thanks to some really good friends who introduced us to this. We did rock painting during COVID and acrylic, what's it called? Ink? I forget what it's called. Fun things that certain people in this audience know what I'm talking about. Okay, so he was also a good a good sport. This was when he lost to me, was 61 to 262 in gin rummy. And I made him, let me take a picture of it. So something else about Stu you probably don't know is that he was a man of surprises. They were all good, nothing bad happened. But one time I came home, and on this wall where I had a lithograph for the last 30 years, he had taken it down and he had framed these photographs that he had taken of flowers, which I still have on the wall and I really like. I wasn't mad at all. Let me tell you about one thing that he did that was so thoughtful. And I hope I'm not boring you guys, this is a lot of talking. So I grew up with a boy named Joel Zip. His mother was my second mother. Our families were like this. So Joel and he was 1 year ahead of me. I went to Madison, Wisconsin for college because he did first and told me about the parties, and it was great. And it happened to have a good school of social work. So those two reasons. Okay, so we camped together. I was a little sister in his fraternity at college. We were extremely close. I totally lost touch with him for the last 50 years. Totally. But Stu had heard the name. So Stu and I were driving locally one day, and my phone rings, and I pick it up, and who is on the phone but Joel Zip? I went, oh my God, Joel, I haven't talked to you since I don't know, 1970. He had gone onto Facebook, Stu, found him, communicated with him, and set it up so that Joel and I could be joined again and be friends again. And we are. We're communicating all the time. If that was such a gift, and such a sweet thing to do. Okay. This is one of the other funny things he did. So for those of you who know me, I have a little bit of energy. I have a lot of energy. And he didn't. And he had these T-shirts made. So mine said, "I'm Norma, try to keep up." And his T-shirt said, "I survived a day with Norma." And we would wear these to festivals in Wisconsin. There was one music festival we went to. 3 sets of people stopped us and took pictures. Oh my God, I have to take a picture. That's so funny. So, okay, now let me tell you something else about Stu that I don't think I don't know if any of you know this. He always wanted to have blue hair. I don't know why, but he always wanted to have blue hair. He liked women's fashion. He was a little different, liked cooking shows. He always wanted to have blue hair. So when he was in Wisconsin one time and I was going to visit him, I got off the plane wearing something that you're going to see that I made him try on. I just love that slide. So I got off the plane wearing that, and then I made him try it on. But that wasn't good enough. So one day, I dyed his hair. It came out after a few days, but he could cross that one off his list, which he did, which he totally did. So the other thing I want to tell you about Stu that you may or may not know is that he was probably the friendliest person in public I've ever met. He would make best friends with every cashier, oh my God. What's that? The waiters. I mean, he literally, one day we were going to catch a plane and he was having this long extended conversation with the person that we were returning the rental car to get onto the plane. And I was like, "Sorry, I'm going." And he eventually followed me. But something he did that you might want to try, it was very kind. He would go up to a cashier in Walgreens or whatever, and he would say, "What do you suggest I get? What do you think is the best candy here at the counter in front of you?" And the person would say, "Oh, those caramel candies," or the whatever. And so then he would buy it with his other things that he was buying, and then turn around and give it to the cashier, and then walk out. It's something you should try. And the look of shock on their faces was like, phew. Anyways. Okay, I just also want to say that even though he was very funny and witty, he was very, very strong. He experienced a lot of medical challenges even before the cancer kicked in. He pursued all treatments recommended by the oncologist, any doctor, and I have to tell you, he never said the words, "Why me?" Never, ever said, "Why me?" So he was very strong. Okay, that's just, my dogs adored him. Okay, so he always wanted to become a grandfather, and thankfully, Maxine was born 7 months before he passed. So here, this is in the rehab room at the skilled nursing facility. That's Maxine, possibly the most chill baby I've ever met. Just so agreeable. And he just adored her. So he did become a grandfather and did have 7 months with her. Okay. So, and then I'm going to finish up with lessons, but I want to tell you that my life is filled with sadness now, but it's also filled with joy. I think most of you know, but some of you may not. So 2 hours after I shoveled dirt onto Stu's coffin, literally 2 hours later, my first grandchild was born in Australia, and that is my grandchild. And her name is Rosley, Rozley. So I will hopefully go there in August and get to see him. Okay, so let me tell you what the lessons are to learn from Stu, and that then we make him happy. He would be really happy to know that his memory lives on in acts of kindness by those who knew and loved him. So if you see someone less fortunate, think like he did, which is, how can I help that person? If you see an organization and you believe in that organization's mission, think, what skills do I have that could lend and enhance the success of that organization? And so that's number one. Number two is be extra friendly to people in public, that the ripple effect of one genuine human exchange really can last for hours. And I even saw a little scientific study recently that showed these micro moments, like holding a door open for a stranger, actually activates the vagus nerve, is that how it's called? The vagus nerve calms your nervous system and can give you a boost of serotonin, the feel-good chemical. Okay, so that's 2. 3 is try something new. Like he tried lots of things he hadn't done. So don't be afraid to try something new. Life is fun. And 4 is try doing surprises for others or enjoy them if they're presented to you. And the 5th one I'm not capable of doing, which is being funny, if you can. I'm just not. Puns or jokes, anyways. So that is the end of my contribution. I'm going to take this opportunity to introduce my wonderful son, Robert. Robert is the one who my younger son, who lives in Philadelphia, came in today, just came in for a few days, specifically right now for this event. And the older son is the one in Australia. He says he obviously couldn't come. He's got a 1-month-old baby. So I'm going to turn it over to Robert.
Is this a good distance? Like this? Or bring it a little forward? A little higher. Okay, thanks. Hi, everybody. First, can we all just take a breath together? So I have some notes from my brother that I'll read first, and then a little bit for myself. But I just wanted to say, Mom, like what you were saying, I think Stu had such a gentle soul. I think one of the reasons, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, why he and I bonded over philosophy was because he cared about people, you know? He was sensitive to people, empathetic. You could see it in his photography, right, in those flowers. And I think that he did things that were nice for people, not only because it felt good to him, right, but because his core values said that's what you do. So just wanted to add that. So my brother, he sent some thoughts and then a poem, and his thoughts I'll read. Stu came into our mom's life many, many years ago, left for a long time, and re-entered well down the road. And aren't we all lucky and better off for that? We realized it was something serious when my mom, brother, and I were in Cambodia on a family visit. Typically, Mom isn't somebody who wants to miss out on a fun activity, especially with her boys. The FOMO is strong. But all of a sudden, she was encouraging us to go have a day for the boys, and she would be fine on her own. What did she do all day? She meandered on the beach while flirting with Stu on what must have been a wildly expensive phone call. We feel fortunate to have had him in her life and our life. He made her happy. He made Pepsi and Batman happy, my dogs, our dogs, and he never did so in a way that threatened her relationship with her sons. This poem represents Stu. It's titled Stupendous, a tribute in puns. Let's take a moment, just a few, to smile and laugh and toast to Stu. A man so kind, so warm, so true, and always good for a pun or two. He'd volunteer by visiting folks, both old and wise. With the twinkling pun light in his eyes, he'd walk in saying, "No need to fear, your daily superhero is here." A blind friend once said, "You're such a guide," and Stu replied, "I'm just along for the ride." He brought calm comfort, never rushed, and even silence felt disgust. With seniors too, he shared his charm. He would escort them to music on his arm. "I'm not old," he'd grin. "I'm well seasoned, see, and up they would walk through the doors to Mackie. To our dear mom, he brought bright days, with little jokes and punny praise. She'd laugh until she'd lose her breath. Love bloomed, and not just in jest. He made fast friends, no need to try, with just a pun and a cheerful hi. If hearts were doors, he'd stroll right through. I'm here to lighten the mood, not the view. He liked a beer, but not too much, just enough for a friendly touch. He'd clink his glass with here's to you. May your troubles be light and your puns be true. So here's to Stu, our punny guy, who never let a groan slip by. The world was brighter in his view, and a whole lot funnier thanks to Stu. That's his poem. And then my thoughts. So just to echo what my brother said, my mom and my family was very fortunate to have had Stu come into our lives. It was beautiful to see how my mom cared for him. I could clearly see in your eyes and sense it in your excitement. I really could. He brought such a valuable partnership to her. He made her laugh until she cried, which is amazing to see. And it filled my heart to witness that. Stu and I also connected. Like me, as I said, he was into philosophy, notably Buddhism and Stoicism. I was really excited when I saw that the books he brought in to my mom's house were all about presence, acceptance, self-growth, all these things. Was not expecting that, but that was amazing. That and, of course, the required litany of miscellaneous Jewish books that is required. I'm sure we all have. So yeah, I just want to thank you, Stu, for blessing us with your presence. You are a light to us all. Thank you.
Rob, thank you for reminding us also just to take a breath. Shelley and Gil Carpel, who are longtime friends, would like to share some words as well.
Now I need to bring this down. Way down. How's that? Can you all hear me? Wow, the room is full. It's amazing. Okay, let's see. Yeah, okay. I feel like I'm representing the room. You know, I was asked as a friend, and so I feel like I'm absorbing all of the love from all of you. And what I'm going to be doing is talking, but in sort of the Stu way, in his style, where I'll tell stories with a little bit of humor and a lot of heart, because that's who Stu was. Okay? Now let's see if I can make this work. I'm trying. Okay, we got it. Okay. So, as Norma's friend, and I think a lot of you will relate to this, when we started hearing about Norma talking to some guy on the phone for hours and hours and hours, I'm like, she seems happy, but who is this guy? So Norma and I know each other for 20 years. That's what I figured out. And she's been through some difficult things in her life. So I was feeling really protective. So when Stu came to Boulder for the first time, I had an agenda. I needed to check this guy out. And I also wanted him to know how great it was here in Boulder with our wonderful community, and that Norma has so many friends. We wanted him to be a part of us if it made Norma happy. So, we met at Dushanbe Tea House for brunch. We sit down at the table, and Stu is having what I can only describe as a huge allergy attack. He could not stop sneezing. His nose was running the whole time. He could not get to his tissues fast enough. But even in the midst of all of that, he somehow managed to charm us, telling stories, making us laugh, and actually we could not stop laughing about the first impression that he was making. And he had such a good sense of humor about it that we loved him already from that very first day. So this picture that you're looking at here, they came to our house shortly after. This was the first time Stu came to our house, and I took this picture. And looking at them, you can just see how happy they were. And Norma, if I could freeze time, it would be right then. It was so happy, and it was before COVID, and it was before cancer. And that's what I would love to be able to do for you if I only could. But if we look at Stu more closely in this picture, which I'm doing over here, I think it captured him. It captured his essence of who he was. Charming, warm, playful, funny, and very gentle, right? We just felt so good being around him. Stu is also quite the talker. And I loved how introspective, self-reflective, philosophical, like you were saying, Rob, and spiritual he was. And we're also big talkers. So we would often talk for hours and hours and hours, the four of us together. Norma kind of said this, but it was pretty soon after we met that Stu pulled me aside and he told me that he had once had a very huge crush on Norma when they were teenagers, and that he could hardly believe that this is what's happening. He was so excited. Now, this is so interesting because hearing all the different things that Stu was doing, and I knew it, but I never heard the list like that. It's interesting to think about what he said to me, but if you know Norma, Norma does even more than Stu. Yeah, Norma never stops because that's who Norma is, okay? And I think they connected a lot, you know, doing things for people. I think that was one thing that they really shared. But he once took me again to the side because he needed some support. He said to me, "Shelley, I just can't keep up with her." And I said to him, "Stu, I would never be able to keep up with her either." And that's okay, because I don't know that anybody could really keep up with you, Norma. But he felt relieved that he got that validation. And then I go and I hear about all these things that he was doing, and he made it sound like he wasn't doing anything all day long. So Stu was always very thoughtful. And one time, Norma had to drop everything and go to her mother in Florida for some health reasons. So my doorbell rings, and I find Stu standing there with a charcuterie board in his hands, and it was like all meat and cheese. And he told me that Norma had signed up for a class, and then she had to leave suddenly. So she really wanted the charcuterie board that came if you attended the class. And so he offered to go to the class. So he was holding the board that he had put all the food together from the class, but that was his vegan period, if you remember that. There was nothing he could eat. Yeah. But he said, Shelley and Gil would enjoy this, so he brought it over to our house. But he made me promise that I would give the board back when we were finished, which I did. Then COVID hit, and we had to isolate from each other. My birthday is in mid-April, so I was one of the first birthdays in quarantine. And there was a lot of concern for family, for friends in our community. I was feeling very sad about it all. And all of a sudden, the doorbell rings. Note this. Yeah. Was that amazing? I felt a whole lot better after that. They were an amazing team. They both intuitively knew and made this difficult time into a wonderful moment. Because of COVID, Stu was stuck in Boulder, with Norma. And if you have a partner, you know what that time was like, right? Where you were together 24/7. And as we all know, if a relationship could survive the COVID quarantine, it was solid. Right? Yeah? Okay. Let's see if I can do this. Come on. There we go. Okay. Okay, did you want to say something? Okay. So, I'm sorry, hang on one second. Okay, that's why. Finally, no, that's what happened. Finally, we could get together in person, but only outside and with masks. You all remember this. Here we are at our first time together, and if you see, we had a champagne bottle to celebrate. So, Norma, there we are with the champagne again. It feels like we were just coming out of the COVID horrors, and then Stu was diagnosed with glioblastoma. Knowing the typical course of this, Stu was blessed, and we were all blessed, with a year where he was still able to function relatively well and enjoy life. That's Stu and Gil. The picture was taken last July 4th. We went to Longmont for the July 4th celebration. And Stu was really, really excited because he was going to take us to Culver's after the concert was over. Oh, so you're recognizing. I had no idea what Culver's was, but it's a restaurant. It's really like a fast food place from Wisconsin. I didn't even know that it existed, but he was so excited he was going to take us to Culver's. So we're having a wonderful time at the celebration, and it was a really hot day. and all of a sudden Stu started experiencing a seizure. And we saw that happen actually 2 or 3 times when we were with him, and we could see how much pain he was in when that would happen, and that his muscles would spasm. And it was just so hard to watch, but I can't even imagine what it felt like. So we hung out with him for a while after everybody had left, and we were still there. And so we said to him, Stu, we don't have to go to Culver's. We'll do that another time. And he insisted that he was all right and that we should go. I was always amazed by his will to keep going, his courage and his fortitude, his drive to live life. So off to Culver's we went. Not only did we go, but we stayed for almost 3 hours, just talking, as usual. And Stu and Gail got into this big discussion about their childhoods and growing up, and you would never know that he had experienced that just a little while before. So it was understandable that Stu's daughters wanted to come here to see their dad because he had been here for a really long time. And of course they wanted to check things out. I think they found reassurance, that's Rachel and Mindy, found reassurance when they realized that Stu could count not only on Norma, but on all of his friends and his community. I look out into this amazing gathering, and I think that this is just, it was so amazing that in 7 years, that he made all of these connections with people. That's a relatively short period of time. And part of the time he's in Wisconsin, part of the time quarantined, and then dealing with his health issues. And yet still, here we all are today. It's just a tribute to who Stu was as a person. Okay, I am showing you this picture of the 4 of us for illustrative reason. If you notice where I stand and where Stu stands, there was a really big difference in our size, okay? So when you come into our house, there's a foyer, and then you step down off of the landing into the rest of the house. So over time, Stu and I developed a bit of a ritual that when he came into the house, he would step off the landing and I would be on the landing, and we would hug each other as a greeting. And then when he would leave, we would do the same. So Stu was going back to Wisconsin to await the arrival of his granddaughter. And as he was leaving our house before the trip, we took our positions and gave each other just the biggest hug. And we held on just a bit longer than usual. And inside I was thinking, I'm not sure if I'm going to see him again. And that was the last time. So in a quiet moment, I can turn inward and feel his hug still. And I know you all have special moments like that too. I know you must, because that's who he is and was. So Norma, thank you for bringing Stu into our lives. We love you both.
I was just going to say just a few words. Stu and I really developed a really great friendship, and we spent a lot of time talking about all kinds of things together. But he introduced me to the Men of the J. He actually is the one who invited me to come and spend some time, and that's become a very important part of my life for a long time. And he also introduced me to the cancer support group that Rabbi Ruth led, and we did that together. And I've had a bout with cancer myself, and so he was there, very supportive. It was really great. He was a great guy, a really great guy to talk to all the time and joke around, and we had a lot of great conversations. And I know that there are a whole bunch of people from the J that are watching this on Zoom, and they all wanted me to express the same thing, that they miss him tremendously. And he's just a great guy. Anyway, that's my little contribution there.
So another breath. And Stu was an active member of Congregation Beth Ami, the Colorado Congregation for Humanistic Judaism. And we invite up their spiritual leader, who was Stu's spiritual leader, Sheila Malcolm, to share some words as well. And then she will lead us in a secular Kaddish.
I bet you've all been wondering why this is up here. I'll get to it shortly, a little anticipation. My name is Sheila Roth Malcolm, and I lead Beth Ami, CCHJ, where Stu cast his lot when he arrived in Boulder. I was surprised recently to realize that I've lived in Boulder for almost 50 years. As an educator, wife, mom, and Jewish community leader, after discovering the dignity, openness, and culture of humanistic Judaism. Stu also found and appreciated those values, even though we both grew up and grew older in more traditional Jewish settings. When I reflect on my first ever meeting with Stu, which was at the Brewing Market at Baseline and Broadway, I recall how much we laughed. Yes, you'll hear it again. He had a way of relating his life's journey, its joys and tears, as a comedy routine. We laughed over his years-long attempt to start up a humanistic congregation in Madison, his angst about moving to Boulder, temporarily, he thought, so far from his daughters, his adapting to life out west. His story concluded with his leap of faith in coming to Colorado to be with Norma. Why did we laugh? Because Stu was engaging and ironic and very, very funny. I wanted him to be my friend right away and become a participant in our congregation, which he happily did. And he also became your friend. So look around again. This is an amazing group. How did you know Stu? Through Jewish Family Service, or Boulder Newcomers, or the JCC, or events with Beth Ami and Har HaShem? He was a friendly visitor to my needy brother, a remote English tutor, as Norma mentioned, to a woman in South America, a member of our Afghan family welcome team, our Beth Ami treasurer, and the creator of the Good Movie Club, for which he was awarded the Best Stew Trophy. Sorry, Stuart. He was the best. And do you know what his favorite movie was? Anybody? Call it out if you know. It was Avalon. Who knew Avalon? You ate the turkey? That was his line. But we didn't laugh when Stu began having medical issues and eventually decided to return to Wisconsin. A sad decision for all of us, but a good one for him. And as a fairly new grandmother myself, I understand the call of that next generation and the absolute joy of its arrival. Maxine. Stu bonded with his grandbaby for 7 months. She was highlighted in his caring bridge posts and clearly lit up the end of his life. I hope she inherits his smarts, his broad smile, and quick wit, and laughter. Always the laughter. So thanks for gathering here today and for the opportunity to remember Stu with a smile. Thank you. As Norma said, Stu had prepared a number of readings for moments like this. And one is the humanistic Kaddish by Marge Piercy. Look around us, search above us, below, behind. We stand in a great web of being joined together. Let us praise, let us love the life we are lent, passing through us in the body of Israel and our own bodies, and let us say, Amen. Time flows through us like water. The past and the dead speak through us. We breathe out our children's children. Blessing. Amen. Blessed is the earth from which we row. Blessed the life we are lent. Blessed the ones who teach us. Blessed the ones we teach. Blessed is the word that cannot say the glory, that shines through us and remains to shine, flowing past distant suns on the way to forever. And let us say, Amen. Blessed is light, blessed is darkness, but blessed above all is peace, which bears the fruits of knowledge on strong branches. Let us say, Amen. Peace that bears joy into the world, peace that enables love, peace over Israel, everywhere, blessed and holy is peace. And let us say, Amen. Shalom.
It's our custom to rise as we are able, standing shoulder to shoulder, to read the words of the Kaddish prayer, giving strength to those who are mourning. And we all want to give that strength to Norma and to Stu's friends and family right now. Let's read together. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירם בעלמה ויאמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ויאמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, ויאמרו amen. May the one who brings peace into the heavens bring peace to us, to all who are mourning. And let us say together,
Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. Norma, with the incredible help of so many friends, have prepared an oneg, a luncheon, and please stay and join in enjoying a meal together. Norma has also asked that come up to her and share stories of Stu, and if you're not able to do that today, please, in writing, send stories, because each memory is a gift, and some gifts, it's good to have a chance to reflect on them in the coming weeks and months. We close with a nigun, and then we invite you for lunch.
Please join together as song can bring balm to the spirit. I,
Lech l'shalom. Go in peace.